Inspirational radio. We're the talk show. Kicking in and having fun. So turn your radio up.
Welcome to another episode of TheReuPLive. You got Lasagna Witt and
Yes, yes.
your boy, the Deacon Seaworth. We missing our buddy right now, Mr. Bishop One Good Leg, aka Dynamite, aka he got a lot of AKAs. So if y'all watched our shows, he got a lot of personality. But
Yes.
he'll be back with us next week. And as we get into our first topic, I'm sure he gonna want to be back with us next week because he gonna want to rub it in our face about him being right about something. And what we talking about? CARLEE Russell, right? We got some new information. Just want to give a quick update on that situation. I think earlier this week, her lawyer came out and spoke on her behalf and said that she did make up this story. He didn't give a reason why that. I'm super curious as to why. I mean, was Dion right? Was he? Was this some extravagant way of trying to hang out with her other man or something like that? I don't know. The details that I got, it seemed like she was trying to get her other man back, or she wanted some attention from him or something. So, what you think, son?
No, me?
Yeah.
You said what I think. I don't know. I've seen so many different things, but I will say this. I think sometimes, you have to, mainstream media, I can't really say I give it too much thought because of the stuff that I know that people do behind the scenes. And I think sometimes you run into a system too big, you say whatever they tell you to say. You'd be like, this got mainstream attention. And I think with this sex trafficking, it's a lot of big news, especially with Mel Gibson's movie and stuff coming out. And with something like this coming out, if it was something to it and you run into a system, you say whatever the system tell you to say because you want to take attention off of something that's really going on. So I don't really know. They say this and all the mainstream media, they say all of this, but I know of a case personally walking through it with some people. It was nothing that was on the news. It was nothing they put on the internet because I know them. I lived around them. I was with them. And it's like, man. So I don't know if she ran into a system, you're going to say whatever they tell you to say. That's why, how you 25 years old, good looking, never had no past, or then you just get on the phone and just start doing stuff. You run into a system big enough, you wasn't kidnapped. This your lawyer. This what you say. I'm not saying that this happened to her, but I know of other stuff that, and then you may have to live with it the rest of your life. What the public think and what somebody else think, it ain't none of that. But I'm not saying that's this with this case, but I just know what I know. When you run into stuff that's a little bit beyond your pay grade, a little bit bigger than you, sometimes you just have to say what they tell you, saying you just have to suck it up in private. And whatever you know, you just know. You just take it to your grave, or it's going to be other consequences. If stuff get too big and leaked out to the news too big, oh shoot, we got to play catch up. This will happen. This will happen. This will happen. That's why I think some of it be sketchy. Like you don't know. And I know all the memes come out and all the stories come out, but sometimes if you're not really there, sometimes you just don't know what mainstream media want you to think is what they put out there for you to think. So I'm not saying it ain't. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I know of other stories that have made mainstream, be on the news, being on the internet, and there was nothing they said. And the person just had to live with it. Just like, just what it is, just what they say, and nothing I can do about that.
But that's kind of my problem with this, Lasagna, because to your point, this is a very serious situation. Like sex trafficking is a real thing. It happens daily. To your point, it's happened to people close to you. It's happened to people close to me. It's a regular thing, and so I said this the last show. I would be very disappointed to hear that this was a made up situation. Like I was made up. It was very disappointing when I heard about Jesse Smollett. and what happened with his situation, because racism is still
Mhm.
alive and well. There's still people who believe and think the way that they do, and so for
Mhm.
you to, you know, do something to grab attention, using that type, or using that platform, or using, that type of situation to grab that attention is, um, I don't like that at all. Like, I mean, there's other ways to grab attention, I think,
Mhm.
to get what we need. And again, I'm still praying for CARLEE, because again, for someone to come up, let's, her lawyer, I'll take media out of it. This is what her lawyer's statement, was, to her, or from her, um, is and let me add this, like a couple of days later, she was out, at a party in Atlanta.
Mhm.
It's just
Yeah.
I I'm leaning towards this was, I mean, it was just too many gaps with this. Again, the kid,
Mhm.
the toddler. I know that could have been, used as a setup, and a lot of different things like that, but it was just too many gaps in the overall story, and the overall outcome. And for her to admit it, I honestly, it clears, it makes more sense for her to admit it at this point than did to fill all the gaps that have been left by the story itself. You know what I mean? So,
Mhm.
um, but the main point, and I think the thing that, I challenge anyone, like, if she's going through something, mentally, or a mental stress like that, like, find a better way to get that help and get that attention. And I want to bring this back to us as Christians. I know a couple of shows ago, we talked about seeing about people. We were talking
Mhm.
about relationships with each other, like, and we were talking from a standpoint of, like, for example, serial killers. But again, I can almost assure you that CARLEE had some type of, symbols, or some type of things, where she was pleading out for someone, to talk to her about different things. And as Christians, I know we're going to talk a little bit more about some other things later on. That word empathy keeps popping in my head, like having empathy, like to try to understand what someone's going through, or why they feel the way they feel, or why they do what they do, good, bad, or indifferent.
Mhm.
And so that's kind of where I'm at with it right now.
Yeah.
I definitely, from my flesh side, I just want to. I'm curious as to why, and why go to this length of to grab attention, and then, but the spiritual side of me says, if we did go to this length, there has to be something very serious behind it all that this person is struggling with, and either way, they need our prayers, they need our us to be a body of Christ, and hopefully, get them back into, hopefully help get them back into a good place, or lead them to the person that will, which is Jesus. So
Mhm.
that's that's
Okay.
what I'd say about it. So, I know Bishop One Good Leg probably will have a lot more to add on to it. So I'm gonna table it, but again, just wanted to kind of give an update to our audience. Um, Probably you may or may not have heard that update again. But her lawyer, she's gone through her lawyer. They still haven't had an interview directly with her, or a conversation directly with her yet. She's been getting a lot of backlash. A lot of people have been giving her, a hard time on the internet. But I will say this: she's not the first person. Like,
Mhm.
there have been people of different colors who've made false claims. I don't know if you heard about the lady last, I think it was the end of last year or beginning of this year, who said that like a Hispanic couple had tried to kidnap her child,
Mm.
and they had it on video that that was not the case at all. But again, false claim.
Yeah.
Um, for whatever reason, this person felt that they needed to have, you know, that moment,
Mhm.
um, But what do we do with that? And what does that really say about that person? What does that say about our society, where we're at, and what can we do to help with it? Because um, evidently there's a lot of stuff going around that are it's serious. That's on
Hmm.
this level, right? So we can't play games with this that type of stuff at all.
Definitely. Yeah, because it is a real deal. 8 million kids, missing and all over the world, not just U.S. but collectively. They say I said that's a big number. Some statistics they got different numbers, but that's just one that I was looking at that they were had researchers looking at. I said, God, oh, that's a lot of people. So, and we know that sex trafficking bring in so many billions of dollars all over the globe. So we know it's a big deal, and they're getting people from somewhere to traffic them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it
So,
is a big deal.
and I know last week we talked about Sound of Freedom. I know you
Yes,
saw the
definitely.
movie. I got the trailer playing in the background right now. But again, with this movie coming out, and again, there's still a lot of drama, a lot of overall controversy, conversation about it. Which I will say this, and this is just something for our audience, like good and bad commentary leads to success in media.
Oh
What,
yeah, more
what I,
people going to see what you're talking about. Like, what they is this bad? Well, let me go see what they talking about. What's the controversy? People want to be in the know.
and I'm almost willing to say sometimes people, Dion likes to play Jerry Jones, right? The Cowboys. Man, I'm gonna
Yeah,
piss off some of my Cowboys fans, but they're called America's team, and it's the most expensive franchise in the world, right?
they make more money, do even
Right.
when they,
They
they they don't even have to win to make all that money.
ain't
Jerry
one
Jones got the lock on some. He
ain't
knows
one
some.
in close to three. Ain't one nothing, right? But still, why? Because
You
they're
skipping? Hmm.
oh, but
Yes,
good and different always in the news. You
always.
right?
Yes.
Always. So I would say that I think not only from what you told me, the movie is really good. From all
Oh,
the
yes, really
reviews
good.
I've heard about it, the movie's really good. But they didn't really need the advertisement because outlets like ourselves, other outlets, it's been in my feed for the last 2 weeks. So if people haven't heard about it yet, they're just not, connected into social media or anything like that, which
Hmm.
is rare nowadays. You know what I mean? So, um, really, really, highlighting a topic that I think is again very prevalent. What did you say? 80 billion? How many people trafficking
What?
all over the world?
Oh no, that's just said the 8 million kids have been. They said between all over the world they go missing or trafficked or somewhere in there. It's like eight
Mhm.
million kids. They were like, it's like, whoo, that's a lot of little people.
Yeah. Well, I think that's people. I mean, that's little people. There's adults. There's
Yes, yes. Hmm.
that number includes a lot of different things, and trafficking is there's a lot of versions of it.
Yeah,
Um,
that's true.
and it's like I said, very serious. Like the Carly Russell thing. This was a woman. Women are getting trafficked. Men,
Mm.
kids, like you name it. I saw a special. I don't know if it was on Netflix or whatever, but something about how people were getting trafficked for labor. They were getting pulled in like a regular job interview and um, get pulled into a situation to where they can't really leave. That situation they're working for pretty much nothing and
Hmm.
doing really really hard labor and working under some very intense situations. So all of that is real. Um, but for some reason, this ends up continuing to be like a political discussion. And as far as I'm concerned, we should be as far away from that as possible. We should be looking for solutions. We should be looking for ways to help the situation and not really prolong it. Now, um, so I'm gonna stop there for a second. But you have more thoughts about the Sound of Freedom and some of the controversy with that?
Oh,
Say,
I thought it was good. I thought the content was good, action packed, and I thought them pulling in the real guy at the end, showing his real family and what he's really been into, and how they took this just one true story. This was his story, and how he lost his job. I mean, he was just really intent on doing the best that he can, and with his wife's support, it was a really good, heartfelt story. The storyline for what people risk to go after somebody else's child. And to be honest, it seemed impossible, except he went and got that baby. God had to help him, with the story and that being a true story. It's like there's no way people put their life on the line for somebody else's child to do what he did to rescue him. And they go to such great lengths to make sure you can't find your children. You know what I mean? Send them out the country immediately. You kidnap them, put them on a boat, boom. They send them to different countries. How in the world are you going to track down your child going to all these different places? You have no idea where to start. So it's like God was helping them. I'm just going to say that.
so here's what I would say. Part of the controversy that I'm hearing though is it says it's based off a true story. But
Uh-huh.
for example, and again, I haven't seen it yet myself, but the little girl that is depicted in this, they said that
Uh-huh.
the heroine actually never met that girl, and like he definitely didn't rescue her, but he met her like 3 or 4 years after
Hmm.
she was actually saved. So that's what's adding to some of the controversy. And here's what I would
Okay.
say to that, right?
Hmm.
One, I think that's how media works as far as us saying based off a true story. Like every element of that movie is not going to be
Right.
true,
Yeah,
but
because
it's
I know that
based
you
off
got to
of,
have, yeah, I got you.
yeah, you got to make it a movie, right?
Yeah, yeah, they got the drama going.
Right. So you don't know what the other side was doing, or you don't know, what the movie Taken. One of my
Right,
favorite movies. I like the movie Taken. Like every part of it so far has been pretty entertaining to me. Um, but it's entertainment. You know what I
right,
mean?
right.
From that standpoint, but it's entertainment that's highlighting, something that is actually happening there. So, you know,
Hmm.
so part of the controversy I hear is that, and the other big piece of the controversy that I hear with when it comes is the actors kind of speaking out on some of the things that they believe in. Q and keeps coming up, and I, I mean, again, personally, I think QAnon is a weird thing to believe in. Um, it irks me because a lot of people try to tie Christianity to QAnon because of this, and
Hmm.
um, what I will say is I think as people we need to be careful on what we tie ourselves to or connect ourselves to. Going back to what I was saying about Carly Russell, because sometimes people don't take us seriously because of some of the things that we're connected to. Um, I'll give you an example, a personal example. Like I've always been upset LGBTQ plus situations to racial situations. Like that has always been bothersome to me. Like I understand we're talking about rights and things like that, but I didn't. I didn't wake up and feel like I was a different color. Like I am a black man in America, right? So what I
Hmm.
deal with, um, what I have been born into, like I didn't have a choice on what that was going to look like for me. Like there
Hmm.
was no
That's true.
line, where okay, all people who want to be black, line up and get in this
Hmm.
baby line, and all the people it won't, it wasn't a choice for me. And when we compare something like our sexual preference and whether you like men or women or anything like that to something like that, again, I think it belittles whatever that other thing is. Like
Yeah.
again, you can have your fight for whatever you want to fight for and you whatever believe in. Let's start tying it in that something else that may not be really the same thing, but we're trying to make it the same thing, I
Hmm.
think that's when we lose some of the validity because again, we started, um, we're still dealing with racism now. Like Donald Trump, like if he did anything when he got into office, he made people feel more comfortable with talking about how they really feel about things. You know,
Hmm.
when people say "Make America Great Again," I always want to ask them like, again, what? Like, where we going? Where y'all? What part? What year? What century you want to go back to where
Hmm.
it was great for everybody here in this country, or the majority of people in this country?
Yeah,
Um, great financially, great. What I mean, socially, what? Where do we? I know because the people who are normally, speaking to that want to go back to a place where it wasn't good for me. It wasn't good for a
hmm,
person of my color, or it wasn't good for someone in a situation similar to mine. So it's all relevant.
right.
So um, going back to the sound of freedom, the other controversial thing is tying it to QAnon. And again, sex trafficking is sex trafficking.
Yeah,
Period. It's happening whether you're liberal, conservative,
yeah,
uh, in between, wherever it's
that's
happening,
true.
right?
Hmm.
Liberal people will say, "Oh, sex trafficking is happening in the church," like pastors,
Hmm.
doing inappropriate things to people. It's a real thing, right? Like none of
Yeah.
that is untrue. Um, but the question always needs to come back to like, what's the solution? Like, how do we fix this?
Right.
Um, and not just make this a political conversation. There's a statement that I learned in my new job, or in my old job, past job, and it said, "It's not about who's right; it's about what's right."
All right.
And too many times, we're focused on who's right, like who has all the right facts, and the truth is right there in the middle. Like
Hmm.
sex trafficking is real. And if we ever kind of like break down some of these silos and these walls, we can talk about it seriously and get get some type of resolution to it. But as long as it's a political conversation, I find it hard to believe that we're going to get any ground, or get the ground that we need to really you know affect it the way we need to affect it.
Hmm. Got it. I'm definitely on board with that as far as taking apples and oranges and trying to make them be the same thing. It's like,
Yeah,
no, you got to keep everybody needs their own lane. What you want to deal with is what you want to deal with, but let's don't mix them up together and say, oh, that's the same thing. And when it has no relation to each other, it's not
it's
it's,
not.
it's apples and oranges.
It's not. A lot of people. Another thing that I think people tie together is they tie slavery with Christianity. Like, oh, the Bible supported slavery, and that's the reason why, because slave masters used the Bible to try to, you know,
Yeah. Hmm.
um,
Make
defend
the slaves
that
obedient. Hmm.
behavior, right?
Yeah.
But that's not. It's in of itself. It's not what God's heart for people ever.
Never.
It's not.
Hmm.
It was not the purpose of the Bible. It's like what we do even in today's time. We take a scripture, we take a portion of it, and we try to use it to support whatever we're trying to personally, push on someone else at that particular time. And anything you take, if you take one word of a scripture, or one line of a scripture and say, it can mean whatever you want it to mean. But
Hmm.
if you take it in context with who he's speaking, what happened, what was going on, you get to understand a little bit more about God's heart, about
Definitely.
the situation. So, um, for all of those people out here that tie bad things that happen, the Crusades, and slavery, the Holocaust and all of these different things to Christianity, these were men and women who took things, had a personal agenda, and they figured that they would tie or try to add some validity to what they were doing, by using the Bible. Um,
Hmm.
what baffles me is that men and women have done that with other religions as well. They've done that with Islam. They've done that with Buddhism. They've done that with other, beliefs, um, where they honestly feel that they're fighting for something right, or they think they're at least presenting that they're trying to fight for something right, but it's really based off of whatever their personal proclivities are, or what they feel is right at that time, not necessarily what God feels is right at that time. So
Right.
um, again, I think we got to be very careful with what we tie together with different things and what we connect with different things. You read the Bible for what it really is. It's a love story. It's it's a love story. It has the fall of man,
Hmm.
and it has God doing everything He can to woo us and have an opportunity for us to be connected back with Him again. And that's in essence what it is. And so you got all these things in between life and happening in history and things like that. But um, that's the basis of it. He loves us. He wanted a certain type of relationship with us. Uh,
Yes, sir.
the angry ex, I don't know if you want to call the devil the ex.
Yeah, he angry. He used to be up there with God, chilling. He mad now. He said, "I'm gonna get you back. You don't love me no more. I'm gonna get you." And why you hurt people when you can't get them? Hurt what they love.
You heard what they love, right?
Hurt what they love to make them suffer. And he been doing that, boy. Have he been doing that
Yeah.
all through time? Hurting what God loved, and God always come to the rescue.
Can you think of anything else that we connect, that people connect and tie with something that they don't go with it?
Probably for the next show. But people, we do it all the time. Mm-mm, all the time. Don't even go together. Because I fight with, like in the Bible, mankind is not the fight. We casualties of war. This fight is between God and Satan. He
Right.
mad because he lost his position. We just casualties of war. We is the middleman. So we do all this work for Satan, and it's not even about you. He just be like, shoot, I'm gonna pimp y'all out, but that's not who I'm after. I'm after him. I want to hurt him in all the ways possible. So I'm gonna gather as many souls, shake my fist in his face, and say, look how many I got. You love him, and I got him. Ha ha. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's the we just casualties of war. We just in the middle man and got this war and had nothing to do with us. The fight wasn't even about us, but we make it about us.
Yeah.
But the real and the big picture, it's between two, the supreme being and the lesser being.
That's it.
Satan lost his position. He was an archangel. He was the right hand of God. He was right under him. So it is like a love story gone wrong. I used to run
Right.
everything. He used to love me. I was top in command, right under the chief. I was like doing the thing. Then I got put out. Oh, I'm mad. I'm still mad. I'm gonna be mad throughout eternity. I'm mad. Yeah. So
You know. Um, and we'll talk more about this. I invited Carla on the show to talk about it. But there's been a whole bunch of things. I didn't even talk to you about this in the green room, but the comedian Just Hilarious has been, going back and forth with people in the trans community where they're trying to, explain that they're a woman, and um, she was kind of breaking down that all the things that women have that
yeah,
men will never be able to have,
yeah.
and again, uh, I think the root of that is tying something like there at one point. The letter community was really connected to women's rights and women's
Mm-hmm.
equality and things like that. And again, it's two separate things. Like,
Mm-hmm.
again, I don't care who you believe you are, or you feel like you are, anything like that. I mean, it, I didn't even know. like I heard people say cisgender and stuff like that, but I didn't know that was just cis means natural woman. Like, so why did we
Oh, I
have to
didn't know
come up
that
with
either.
a whole? Yeah, I had to look it up because I was like, people keep saying this and or whatever, but all that means is a natural woman. So why do we have to come up with a whole nother name for a natural woman? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it's just in society, I feel like, and the Bible said this, so it's not surprising to me that men would be lovers of men, and not from a
Yeah.
standpoint of homosexuality, but just very in love with their feelings and their emotions, and
Hmm.
um, I feel this way, so I need you to validate what I'm feeling,
Yeah.
and I need you to accommodate or whatever at this point. It's a very, I think, selfish moment in history right now where everybody
Hmm.
wants to have their own feelings about things, and whether they contradict fact or whatever at this point, and they want you to be able to discount what you know about the situation or yourself.
Hmm.
Like you got to understand that everything that you want at some point is going to contradict or um, probably cross the line for someone else. And I think we're getting to a point now, especially in this conversation between women and transgender, um, that you're crossing the line. Now you're telling a real woman that she's not a woman, and
Yeah.
that's crazy to me. That's ludicrous. Like that's exactly the thing that you're saying that you don't want someone to do to you. You don't want me to tell you that you don't feel the way you feel, but you're telling a person who was born that way, feels that way, like has no choice but to be what God made them to be, and that they're not what God made them to be.
Hmm.
That's crazy to me.
It is.
That's my biggest issue with all of that. Like,
And we need to bring our feelings under the word. You can feel any way you want to feel. Tested by the word. What does the word say about it? And if your feeling don't line up with the word, then ask God to check you with your feeling and not try to make the word come down to you, because the word ain't never going to be come down to you. You're going to have to come up to his standards. The word's not coming down. The people are going to have to come up. I feel a whole lot of ways. Like I feel when I would feel angry about something, acting a fool with somebody in traffic or something, it's like, okay, what the word say about anger? Be angry, but don't sin. Don't go to bed, don't let the sun go down on your anger. It's some stuff in the Bible that deals with stuff. So just because you want to be angry all day, God not coming down to make excuses for you being angry all day. Just because
right,
I feel angry don't mean it's the right way to feel. You
right,
know, it's a season. Let that go. And just because you feel like a man or a woman, tested by the word, you know? It doesn't matter what you feel. What does the word say about this? And what is the right way to attack this? What is the right way to address this? I'll say.
right,
How do I address just because I feel it don't mean, because feelings come and go. Culture come and go. You'll be saying this today, and you'll be having a different feeling in 4 or 5 years. Cultural trends change. You have bell bottoms and you have skinny jeans. You have big afros and you have short hair. You had a big old butt, then you had a little butt. Society gonna change what they deem is beautiful, what they think is right. So you need a standard that lasts throughout eternity. You need a standard that's stable. You need something that is what it is, no matter what the culture says. It's the same today, yesterday, and forever. And that's the word of God. So check your feelings by the word. What does the word say about this? What does the word say about that? And that's how because culture is always changing. Culture is always being updated, so to speak. But what does the word say? And culture have too much influence over us instead of the word having influence over it.
right.
Culture
And
dictating what you think, dictating what you wear. And some stuff is neither here nor there. I'm not worried about what you wear, your afro, not styles and stuff. That's neither here nor there. But dictating moral values, dictating how you should view yourself when you're physically born a male or a female, to have all of this different, I went to fill out some type of application for something, and it had male, female, transgender, binary, and fluid. And I'm like, okay, so fluid, transgender, and binary. If you put one of them down, what exactly does that really mean? When I go, okay, I put down fluid. So I'm just whatever I want to be that day. I'm just saying it's like out of control. Like it's like there's like five things when you could pick one. And then everybody you got to be cautious about not offending somebody, not offending somebody. And it's like it's getting out of hand and there's no barometer. What are we comparing this barometer to? What is the standard? Because
Right.
if you don't have a standard, anything anybody says go. Why do we have laws? Like why can't you kill? What if people just feel like killing? Thou shalt not kill. It was one of the 10 Commandments. Where we get that from? The Bible. Moses made the law. There has to be a standard, is what I'm saying. If
Right.
there's no standard, people do whatever they want to do. And when you get out of control, you need something to bring you back to the standard. It's like, okay, because you can have flip out moments, act crazy, do whatever, blah, 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 blah. But you need a standard, a baseline. Be like, okay, this is because if you don't know a standard and there's not one in place, every man, what the Bible say, every man's way is right in his own eyes, but the end
Right.
thereof is destruction. So you got to have a baseline. What's the standard? The
And,
Bible should be our standard.
and here's what I would say. Because what we're dealing with when it comes to this now is, and we've talked about this on previous shows, like when something happens in culture, we have the tendency to go all the way to the other extreme to try to correct it, right?
Mhm.
And I can tell you, growing up and you know being in situations where I've personally have experienced people in the LGBT community that back in the day that wasn't something that you really talked about, or you really wasn't it wasn't, it may have been prevalent, but it just won't out there like that,
Yeah,
right?
I got you.
But I've seen people been beat up and killed because of who they were, right? And
Hmm.
so you had this time frame of that happening, and now you have a whole time frame of people on the other extreme saying, "Okay, look at me, I'm this. You need to respect and call me what I want." Again, what I always say is the truth is somewhere in the middle. Like, it's never good for someone to beat someone up or kill
No.
someone because
Hmm.
of whatever they believe or personally feel at that moment. It's never good for them, right? But it's not good for you to if I see a man, if I see a woman, don't get mad at me because I say sir or him or whatever. I don't have time to understand or know what kind of pronouns you feel for that particular day. To me, that's on the whole other extreme. Like, you put me in a pressure cooker at this particular point where I got to sit up here and do a whole additional step. Like, what are you today? Or, that's crazy to me. Like, and I can't think of anywhere in time, in historic time, because you brought up the Bible, right? And I can hear some of our listeners who might not be Christians or might not listen to the Bible or believe in the Bible. It is real. I will tell you that right now. But even if you didn't believe in the Bible, God set this world up in a way to where it represents who his existence and what his
Hmm.
thought is for man and woman and for us on this earth. So just the principles of how things work, gravity and the
Hmm.
laws of how things work, they represent who God is. He's a God of order. He's a God of structure. He has a plan for everything. I heard someone say it this way: you put a whole bunch of men who like men on an island by themselves, in 100 years, that island ain't gonna be populated no more.
It's gonna be
Why?
skeletons. Hmm.
Exactly. So just how the world, how God made this world to work, we need each other. We need
We
men
need
and
each
women.
other.
There's a purpose for a man and a woman, right? And
Hmm.
um, so you can feel, again, you can try to feel like Lasagna said, you can feel whatever you want. I mean, if I'm being transparent, I felt like killing someone before. I mean, I felt
Hmm.
like, I mean, you can feel all kinds of different things. However, it's the acting on it. It's why are you feeling this way? Like, what's causing, what's the root of your feelings? And um, it definitely, your feelings should not be something that runs or operates or moves your life totally.
Hmm.
And That's biblical, but that's scientific too. That's business. That's like there's a whole bunch of principles that say it's not good for you to make decisions emotionally. Usually, those decisions are not going to be the best decisions in your
And you
life.
can't govern your life with emotion because your emotions gonna change. Like I'm
Right.
sad because somebody died, and then I'm happy because I got some money. Then I'm sad because it's. But what I'm saying is, it doesn't last. It's fleeting. Your emotions and feelings are fleeting. Don't make a permanent decision over temporary feeling,
Exactly.
and don't govern your life by how you feel because how you feel will come and go, and how you feel could or could not be right. So don't make decisions or govern your life by how you feel. That's never a good standard. How you feel.
Yeah. Um, the other topic I wanted to talk about today is, and we touched on this a couple of maybe a couple of months back. Florida has been, doing things with the curriculum um, to battle the woke, right? And I want to talk about that word woke for a second because it means something different now than it meant, you know, before. It's one of those things that I think people have tied a whole bunch of things to
Mm-hmm.
that not necessarily just tied to being woke, right? Woke to me is just something being revealed to you, like a
Mm-hmm.
aha moment type situation. Um, it does not mean to me that understanding pronouns or new science or whatever
Mm-hmm.
people continue to tie this stuff to. I don't prescribe to that, but either way, because of that, Florida. Let me get to the storyline. Florida is has been working on their curriculum, right? And so, a couple of months ago, we talked about the college curriculum where um, they wanted to not teach African studies in their college things. Now, what I did bring up in that situation, and again, tying something to something that doesn't really apply. This is my pet peeve. They put LGBT like a LGBT part into that African studies curriculum. Why would you do that? Like
Mm-hmm.
again, to me, it's two separate curriculums. If you're going to have a curriculum for LGBTQ, it should be its own community, its own curriculum or whatever. That way, if I'm a student and I want to go take it and learn about it, I can do that in college. I can
Mm-hmm.
make that choice. But I don't understand why it had to be wrapped into African studies. And I said this then because I don't know Ron DeSantis from anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I just know some of the things he projects and some of the things he talks about or whatever at this point. But to me at that time, I felt like we gave him an excuse to say, no, I don't want this because we wrapped something into it that I don't think really applied to African American studies. So, me being an African American, I am 110, 150% for us teaching, our history in college and having that curriculum. I'm not okay with tying LGBTQ um, things into that, right? So if I was Ron DeSantis, I would have made a separation of that. I would have asked to, go back to the drawing table and separate those two things out or whatever. But he didn't do that. He just struck the whole thing down. Now we're at a middle school curriculum. And in this middle school curriculum, they want to teach slavery in a different way. They want to teach slavery from a standpoint that, yes, although slavery had some very despicable things that happened in it, that slaves learned trades or learned things that allowed them to be successful afterwards. And um, I personally take strong offense to that because, one of the things I know we've mentioned on this show a couple of times is um, I'm, I don't know, what, four, five, six generations removed from slavery. Um, and still feel some of the residue of what slavery did,
Mhm.
to my people, and to the culture. Like, uh, we didn't own. My family doesn't own land. Land wasn't passed down, from us. I'm learning in my generation right now how money and finances really work.
Mhm.
Because in the 50s and the 60s, the mentality, if you were a black person, is you get your money, you get as much money as you can, you stuff it in a mattress, and
Mhm.
you got to hoard it, because if you don't, you're never going to have it again. And
Mhm.
the mentality that we have, that when we get money, we got to look like money. We have to have rims and cars. So we didn't, our culture doesn't teach investment and things like that. And to me, that all stems, and is a residue of slavery, right?
Mhm.
So these trades, I find it a mockery for someone to ever even say something, to that level. And I heard someone else speak on that, on how, back in those days in slavery, the way the media presented slavery was like they were doing Africans a favor. Like,
Mhm.
we're get slavery was a better lifestyle than what they actually had in Africa, so that they should be actually happy that they were slaves, because it was better than what they came from. And to me, that's revisiting something that we don't need to revisit. Like, that's
Mm.
opening something that should have been shut down a long time ago,
Yes.
dispelled a long time ago,
Mhm.
and shouldn't even be a part of a conversation. The other part of the curriculum, and then I'll share that, and then Lasagna, I definitely want to hear your thoughts on that. Is how we teach some of the major massacres that happened, in
Mhm.
our history. So the Tulsa massacre. There was a situation in Florida. I think it was called Osoji, or something like that. OCG, where black people were killed because they were trying to vote. 60 people were killed because of that. And in the curriculum, it's highlighted that we want to. In this curriculum, that we want to show that not only were black people killed, but they hurt white people, defending themselves, in that situation. Like, why why are we why are we trying to revision history? It happened. Yes, it's past, and what I know about past is, if you don't understand your past, you're doomed
Bound to
to
repeat it. Mhm.
repeat it. Yeah, you're,
Mhm.
you're you're bound to repeat it if you don't understand it. Now, I'm not one that lives in the past, or want to suggest that you should live in the past, but you should definitely learn from your past mistakes, and you should
Yeah.
definitely, gain wisdom from your past. So, um, crazy situation. Now, that's on the conservative side, right?
Mhm.
But we talked about this in the green room, and this is not a part of that curriculum. But on the other end, on the liberal side of things, you got people who are trying to, teach middle schoolers and elementary school people about sexual orientation, um, which, and I believe I said this on other shows. Like, that's no place. I don't want no one teaching my 15, 16, 10, 9 year old about sex. Like, I feel like that's a conversation that you have with your parents, you have with your family. I remember sex ed was,
Yeah.
explaining how the act worked or whatever, but
Mhm.
as far as the preference and all of this kind of stuff, um, no, like, so I think we really need to, get, Lasagna said this earlier about something else, but a foundation
Mhm.
of what school is. School is to teach us the foundation of things, the basics of things, math, history, arithmetic, the facts of things, um, the life, and your
Mhm.
parents, and the family unit is supposed to kind of teach you a lot of these
Mhm.
other things, how to finagle, other things that I think we're trying to, push on it. Because the one thing that I've heard from the conservative side on why they're pushing so hard to teach the other side, or is that they don't want their kids to feel bad about what history is saying, or has said about their culture, right? One, I've never met one person that's ever felt bad about what their grandparents or their great great grandparents did.
Mhm.
Um, I haven't met that. That's just me personally. But maybe there's some people out there. But if there are people out there, I would blame that more on how it was taught than the actual history of it. Because if it happened, and it happened the way it was supposed to happen. Like I don't feel bad that um, Egypt, which is in Africa, was the first thing I've ever read about slavery. Like they had the Hebrews in slavery,
Mhm.
right? So I'm not feeling bad because that's what where I see the first existence of that kind of happening, or at least recorded at that point. But what can we learn from that? Like it
Yeah.
wasn't good then. It wasn't good when we did it in America. So, you know, um, that's where I'm at with it. Simon, what's your thoughts?
Definitely. I don't think school is a place to teach moral compass. The school need to give facts. Like when I took sex ed, they had the egg, the sperm, how you get kids, physiological stuff. Like whatever else you do, that shouldn't be in school. That's outside of, you need to teach the science, teach the math, teach the basic foundations of stuff, but adding in how people should be and how they should respond and teaching your kids their sexuality. I think that's not their place for that. And then as far as conservatives and liberals, I think they all pushing agendas, and we need to stick with a base foundation. And when I say that, you want to dilute a situation. Like you get the Africans, yeah, let's tie this in there to the LGBT. I think you want to take the sting out or not focus on what happened with African studies and take that. Oh no, let's put something else in there with it. So you don't have you want to water it down. You want to take from it any way you can. Like, oh, let's add this to it. Let's add something to it. You don't just want to teach. And like you said, whatever you want to be, God give us a choice. The Bible said, choose ye this day. If you want to think you're a man, woman, that's your business. I'm not upset with none of them because I judge and jury. You got to answer to God for that. That's nothing for me to judge. That's nothing for me to beat you up over. That's nothing for me to kill you over. That's nothing for me to mistreat you over. I shouldn't even know who you're in the bed with. I don't know why that's of concern. Like, why do I have to know who you laying with? Man, woman, dog. I don't understand why you have to put it in my face who you're laying with. I don't know why that's a big deal. If I hire you to do a job, if you're a scientist, you can do the job. I don't need to know who you're laying down with to know you can do the job. If you're a mathematician, you're a mathematician. If you're a judge, whatever you can do, let's hire you for your skills, not hire you or not hire you because of your sexual orientation. Like that doesn't make any sense. Just if you can do a job, hey, let's get you in here. Mistreating, bullying, that's not what any of us are saying to do. And at the same time, don't tell our kids that they're not this or not that. Oh, don't tell them they're male or female. Even my sister said she had some clients that told her, the doctor told her, oh, no, let's don't call it a boy or girl. Let's let them choose. If kids could choose, they don't need parents. The Bible said, train up a child the way he should go. You need to train your children the way they should go. Because if you don't train them, somebody else is going to train them. How come you don't say it's a boy or a girl? We got basics. All this new stuff is coming up, which is not new because the God of Ashtoreth, all this stuff, ancient gods, all this stuff is in the Bible. This is not nothing new. Anytime you take God out, you get the ancient gods in. When the more they push God out, the more you got to push a substitute in. Because we all spirit beings. So everybody wants to, you're going to worship something, whether it's right, wrong, or good or bad. You get the kids out of the children of Israel, they worship in the calf. Because we're a spirit being. We got to connect to the spirit some kind of way. So, but what I would say is school needs to teach facts, teach math, teach science and physiology like they did when I was in school. They're not trying to tell you whether you're a boy, girl, or they're just telling you facts. The sperm meets seed and, an egg, and that's how babies are produced. That's never going to change how, you make kids, even if you make them in the lab, seed and sperm. And if you clone them, you're doing something else. You know what I mean? So, but let's just stick to science, math, stick to facts and things that really did happen. Because LGBTQ, that's what you want to do. That's what you want to do. Hey, what we people can make up a foundation today, for whatever you want to make your foundation for. But I think you just need to teach in schools, is what I'm saying. Just stick to facts, stick to basics, and stick to what really happened. Okay, this happened, that happened, and that happened. Let's stick to history as it did happen, and stick to physical, math, science, physiology, whatever it is. Just stick to facts and not try to be a moral compass to teach your kids something that you want to push an agenda on top of them. That's what I'll say about that.
And I met a doctor yesterday, and we had a conversation. I don't really get into political conversations, and I can't say that this was a political conversation, but it was a conversation. He had recently just moved from Los Angeles to Dallas, but he had lived in Virginia. That's how we got into the conversation. I was originally from Virginia. He's lived in New Orleans. Um, and one of the things that I had a revelation from, or that came out through our conversation, was a lot of the issues that we deal with from people who just have one way of thinking, one point of view,
Mm-hmm.
and they've only
Mm-hmm.
had one, a limited experience. Um, and I hate to stereotype the people that I see that support like Donald Trump, for example, right? I've already said it's not somebody that I would vote for, whether he was Republican or Democratic. I really, because of his leadership style and what he believes in. Um, but the people who support him, I notice, are people who, at some point, feels like their voice was suppressed. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
in the '60s and the '50s, '40s, or '20s, or whatever, as far as you can go back, it was okay to express that you thought that a person was different because of their color, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was commonplace. Like, we would expect you in those times to do that, right? And then it became taboo for some years, and now we're in a situation to where, and this is where I will say Donald Trump did something, is he gave people like permission again to say what was really on their mind. Now that's good and bad, right? Bad from the stance that you would hope that at this far in life, in our country's history, that we would have people that didn't think that way. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but obviously we do, right? Obviously we do, and I can't help but think it's limited by what these people's experiences are. Like, if you grew up, and we're going to talk about this in a second, in a small town, right,
Mm-hmm.
and in the South, um, your perception on life and your point of view on life and how you see people is probably going to be different than someone who grew up in a big city or whatever, right? And
Yeah.
so I see in politics and a lot of things that we do, as we're talking about this curriculum, people are making these decisions, and they're really really bent. Like, you can tell they believe what they're saying. They believe in their point of view on it, but they're not realizing that their point of view is coming from a very siloed place. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Living on the East Coast, living in a big
Mm-hmm.
city, and moving to Texas, and spending summers in South Carolina and small things like that. Like, I've got to see a lot of different interactions with a lot of different people, which allows, first of all, for me to have empathy and a little bit of understanding for a lot of different types of personalities and people. So I thank God
Mm-hmm.
for that. And that's what me and this doctor was talking about. Like, just being in different areas, him being in California, and then moving to Texas. Like, there's difference in culture and thought
Mm-hmm.
there, right? Um, and the way government is supposed to work, the way life is supposed to work, is people with different thoughts are supposed to be able to come together, have a conversation, and find an answer. So
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about sex trafficking. If you go to the liberal side, they've been talking about sex trafficking for a while. Conservatives, they've been talking about sex trafficking for a while. Everybody talking about it, but we're talking about it from two different points of view. If we talk about it together and figure out what realities are and the things that we can address together, all the all the particulars about why you believe it's important and why you believe it's important don't matter at that point. It's the solution, it's the resolution of the situation. And I think that comes from, being willing to, I won't say I will say have an open mind or have a mind that's at least willing to listen to what
Mhm.
people have to say and try to empathize and have some type of understanding with it, and so um, as we're talking about this curriculum, I hear a lot of people say, well, you don't have, you don't know how my, white son or daughter feels when they're teaching about slavery and things like that. Well, no, I don't. But I do have empathy for it, right? And it's not them, you know, it wasn't them that did it, but it's our generation that should be learning from the past mistakes of our ancestors
Mhm.
and family. Like as a black man, there's mistakes that my ancestors have made that
Mhm.
again I have to take accountability for and learn from it. So I don't keep
Mhm.
doing the same thing over and over and over again or pass that down to my next generation. So we all have some
Mhm.
responsibility there. Um, I just think we have to start maturing and being able to have valuable conversations, effective
Yes.
conversations from a standpoint of understanding and not just trying to be right about something.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly that we need to hear one another out and talk to one another and see what we can do that makes mankind better and not divide mankind. We need to
Yeah,
find a way. God put us on this planet. We can find ways to not kill each other, to not have to brutalize each other, not have to make laws against each other. And we don't even have to agree with each other, but we can come down and have commonality and common respect and make a way that's better for life to be lived without mistreating one another. So I believe that we have the capability to do it, but you have to stretch outside of your experiences, stretch outside of your background, and stretch outside of how you were raised and listen to other points of views to have the empathy or even just to hear out what they feel or what they're saying. And I think we can come to may not be 100 one way or 100% the other way, but we can sit down and have common camaraderie between humans. We can have decency between us without fighting,
absolutely.
hating, and mistreating one another. I believe we have the capability to do it. Sometimes I think we just don't want to.
Well, you can see on the background because I mentioned Jason Aldean. I think the last current event topic or things I've seen a lot of is the conversation about Jason Aldean's song called "Small Town." I know the country
Mhm.
music station, took this video off of their rotation. Again, it's one of those situations to where good and bad media always helps because I'm pretty sure he's streamed a lot, probably made a lot of money, from this particular song just based off of the positive and negative press that he's receiving with this song. But I want to end with this because as we're talking about empathy, I've listened in on a couple of different forums on TikTok where they're describing this song from people who believe it's very racist and people who believe that it's an innocent song about small towns. Um, and I can again going back to what I was saying, like I think it's always based off of someone's point of view,
Mhm.
and that's where again I always want to put the um, into this conversation, and especially as Christians, do we have empathy for and at least the ability to listen to what someone else is saying, right? Because I can tell you as a black man that I can look at this video and like maybe if I just heard the song, maybe without some of the words, because I was even reading through the words, I could, you know, probably get past with it. But some of the imagery and some of the things that are even built into this particular video that highlight some of the words that I would think would kind of validate, me thinking that there's a little, maybe he's not racist, maybe he's not trying to be racist, but it comes across that way. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Um, it's perceived that way, right? And there's a lot of things in my life, again, a lot of experiences that I've experienced that would lead me to, if I heard this song or saw this video, to think that this person um, didn't have the best intentions for me or my culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and again, maybe somebody from a small town. I heard a lot of people defending from a small town, black people and white people saying, "Hey, I'm from a small town, and this is how we operate. Like you wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
bring, you know, you wouldn't do this in our small town, and you wouldn't do this because we all got each other's back or whatever." But again, you can go back just two, maybe three generations. My grandmother grew up in a small town, and her experience is not what's being described in this song.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of older people that'll tell you that they to get by and to get along in the situation. They knew what to say and what not to say, what to do and what not to do, um, in order to coexist in
Mm-hmm.
that environment. And then as some of my white friends would say, they probably would never be able to understand that. Walking on eggshells or teaching your kids not to say this or not to do this or not to do that because it might offend, someone of a different race, right? Um, and again, when I heard the background of the actual courthouse that he's standing in front of doing this, I don't know if he knew or not the history of it, but it's just a lot of connotations in there, and as Christians, and I'm speaking to Christians because a lot of people. I mean, I think he even mentions God in this call in his song. Again, it's one of those things where we tie God to it. It's based off of your personal preference. It talks
Mm-hmm.
about the American flag. Do we realize that God is bigger than the American flag?
Mm-hmm.
And he's God of this world, not God of America. Like
Yeah.
he's God of everything. Like his heart is that every man should be saved and that he have connection with every man. That's what God wants. Like just not American men. Like American,
Mm-hmm.
if you really think about it, what's America?
It's
400,
small.
500
Mm-hmm.
years
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we
old,
young and small, you know.
young and small, right?
Yeah,
Like
we're
there's not too
young.
many
We're young.
countries
We're a young
that's
nation, I should say. We're a young nation.
exactly.
As
There's
far
not
as
too
compared to other nations, I'll say that.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Like England got buildings older than
Then
America,
America been built. Mm-hmm.
right? So when you put that in context, and I get it, because there's this nationalist thing to where the United States is supposed to have been built off of Christianity, and I would hope so. I would hope that it was built off some of the moral content, but again, we just talked about slavery earlier. That was a foundation of America. We didn't talk about how the Indians, got the land cheated and taken, from them, and how Mexican people got pushed out of, their land. So
Mm-hmm.
the again, we tie it to has a lot of different things that's not biblical, right?
Mm-hmm.
But but it's so just in that. Um, I think we got to be very, very careful on what we continue to tie Christianity to, because
Yes.
all I care about is our witness, our ability to go to someone with a straight face and share our God and share what Jesus Christ did for them, without having to go through explaining all the things that we try to tie to Christianity, your
Yep.
politics, your belief, your personal beliefs, your you know what have you. Like
Mm-hmm.
all of that is yours. It's separate. than what God is bringing to the table. So um, I'll let you close this out. What's your thoughts on this Jason Aldean? So I know you saw some of the lyrics and
Oh yeah, I
um,
saw it. I saw it. So I'm sure it caused quite a stir. And I could say I can see from two sides as far as making it like being a small town, the way they take care of stuff is not regular like big towns. Like we say, like in the hood, you don't call the police. We got something for you. You know, you don't need their help. You know, when people take care of stuff, it's a way that it probably ain't biblical or lawful that it gets handled. And it just don't involve
right,
the police. We handle our own, And so I could say he probably just put that on the big screen, how we handle our own. And how you handle your own, it just wasn't accommodating to the masses. So it's like if you
right,
come to a small town, this is how we handle it. But we all different cultures. We have ways we handle stuff too. Like, and none of it is necessarily biblical. I think he just put on the big screen. Well, if you come to this small town, you ain't gonna do none of that. That's how we do it up in here. And like we just don't say it on. We just say making videos, so
right,
to speak. This how we handle it too. Some things that you just handle. You don't call the police, and look like they handle some things they don't call the police. But to publicize it and then make a video of it, I think we have to be more cautious about our witness. And if whatever we're claiming, we need to be for mankind, not against mankind. We need to be for one another and not against one another. That's what I
yeah,
would end with. We need to find a way to cohabitate together without hating each other. My God, can we think different? I don't have to kill you. Can I not agree with you and I don't have to hate you? It's like, oh, what else how he think? Okay, that's cool. You can go home and go to bed at night and not get up a whole plan and an agenda to come against me because I don't think, feel, eat, and believe like you believe. So that's what I would say about that. There's a way. We're smart enough as human beings to come up with ways to see about mankind instead of dividing mankind and having differences of opinions, but being okay. You don't feel how I feel. I don't feel how you feel, but I don't have to kill you.
right.
I
And
don't have to hate you. I don't have to mistreat you because you think a certain way and I don't agree with the way you think. It's okay. You think how you think, I think how I think, but we can be okay living together and not being fearful of each other and not trying to do harm to one another. That's what I would say.
yeah, and to ask questions and be empathetic of each other. Because,
Hmm.
I'll tell you my personal experience with the small town. I have a cousin that I've never met that was a football player, but I never got to meet him. He was on my father's side, so I didn't meet my father until later in life. But that's my personal experience with the small town. Now, I'm wise enough to know that every person in every small town isn't that small town.
Hmm.
But I'm trying to give an example of this is the lens when you put certain words in a song and you put certain imagery in a song and you say certain things in a song that I can perceive under the lens of what I've seen in life,
Hmm.
right? And what
Hmm.
I've experienced in life. And too many stories happen in small towns,
Hmm.
in small places, to where, to your point, things have been handled the way that area handles things. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? My young cousin, he may not have been from that small town or whatever. I can tell you he wasn't in there doing anything that he wasn't supposed to be doing. He was a star football player. But for that to happen to him is atrocious. It's
Hmm.
crazy, But that's the lens that I get to witness some of a small town situation in, right?
Hmm.
Now you could be another person, another black person, another white person living in a small town, never had that experience, never seen that experience or whatever. And
Hmm.
so, to Sonia's point, we need to be able to have a conversation where I can talk about my experience and why I feel the way I feel. You could talk about why you feel the way you feel. And we can find the medium. We can find what the truth is in that conversation. Too many times the conversation isn't had, it's not communicated appropriately, it's yelling at each other, It's
Mhm.
I'm all the way believing I'm all the way right. Again, it's about who's right rather than what's right. What's
Mhm.
right is whether you're in a small town, whether you're in a big town, whether you're in the, it's not
Mhm.
okay for you to have your own justice system based
Mhm.
off of your own personal preference and personal, whatever. It's not
Yep.
okay,
Mhm.
right? And
Right.
and it's not relegated to a small town or a big town, but this song and other things like it are again become this divisive measure. Like it's almost like that argument, Lasagna, where they people in Christianity compare mega churches to small churches. Like it's
Mhm.
this battle. Like it's something like we all part of the body of Christ, whether you in a small church or a big church.
Mhm.
we supposed to. I mean, we're supposed to be brothers and sisters. You know what I
Right.
mean? So
Mhm.
again, we find these different ways to try to separate ourselves,
Mhm.
be something different, be something better. Like, I mean, this song gives a cadence like because I'm from a small town, I'm better. You know,
Mhm.
um, can be and somebody can write a song about being from a big town and
Mhm.
feeling better. That either way you look at it, it's wrong. You know, it's how can we work together? These small towns and big towns make up the United States of America that we live in.
Mhm.
So how do we work together? And we depend on each other. Like if you're a
Mhm.
small town farmer, who you selling your farm?
Yes.
Who you selling your fruit and your vegetables to?
Yes, sir. Yeah, somebody
Who,
got to buy 'em. You're gonna
somebody
be out of
buying that,
business. Mhm.
right? And so the money from that big town is coming to your small town and funding whatever you got going on. So it's this thing to where we got to get past ourselves, understanding that we're definitely stronger together. The conversation needs to be together. And we'll probably talk about this on some future shows, but politics, the media, there's a lot of things set up to keep us divided because somebody makes some money about that. You know,
Mhm.
drama sells. I think
Yes, Lord.
that's the
Mhm.
thing. So as long as you keep drama in the picture, you selling something. We talked about the Sound of Freedom. Again, they didn't do no advertising. I didn't see a trailer till the movie came out.
Mhm.
But it's about to break records and all that kind of stuff. Why? Because there's a whole bunch of drama around it, right?
Yes,
So,
sir.
apply to whoever marketed this movie. Basically, probably didn't have to pay too much at all for the marketing because they were wise enough to know that whether negative or positive press, this movie was gonna, you know, get seen. So,
Yes, sir.
that's kind of where we're at. No, there's a lot going on. I'll sum it up. My summation is empathy, taking
Mhm.
the time to really listen to
Yep.
people. I'm always going to be about unity and just facts, like
Mhm.
like getting to the truth, the root of a situation, and that happens through communication, through honest listening to understand rather than listening to be heard,
Yes.
or communicating to be heard. There's a lot to it, and I'm simplifying, and I know it's harder than what I'm saying, but that's what we need to be working towards, overall for all of these situations. CARLEE, we need to understand. We need to listen to the people in our life before they have to cry out and get some attention one way or another. She got attention that way. Like some people are taking their lives, um, asking for attention. Taking their own lives at that point. So, um, but again, if you out there and you feeling like you want attention, don't use something as serious as sex trafficking to paint that picture. You know, Reach out to some counseling. Like I'll find some counseling numbers to put in our description, and reach out to. You can DM me. I know some counselors.
Mhm.
Lasagna certified life coach.
Okay.
We can get some people in your life. And I know we know enough Christians, enough people who are really about that life, believer wise, that want to see the best for you. So, um, DeSantis in Florida, I just came back from Florida. I know it's supposed to be the boycott of Florida, but the beach is lovely. And my wife and I had already made plans and all that kind of stuff, but I had a good time and enjoyed it. So we got to stop messing up Florida because Florida is
Okay.
it's an awesome place. So let's teach the people the right stuff there in Florida
Okay.
and everywhere else.
All right.
Anything else, Sonia?
Oh no, this was good. Yes, let's come together and find a way to live on this planet because we're gonna be here for a little while. So we all need to figure out a way to kind of come together and make it a better place and not so divisive. And we got the capabilities of doing it. We really do. It's within all of us to not be, because if you don't, then God have to intervene. You're not gonna like the way He do it. Because He gonna come in. If He have to intervene, then you just not gonna like His intervention because it's got over the top. By the time He got to intervene, you out of control.
It's like that. Everything stopped.
Yeah, you out of control. When He got to come in and He got to make it right, that means it didn't come up, them cries and come up to Him, the injustice didn't come up to Him, and it's just over the top. So now here He come. He got to set the record straight. Now let me get you back to a restart, and then let's get your reset going. Let's see what else you can do now. Yeah.
Yeah.
He got His own creative ways of giving us resets.
And one last thing before we go, Lasagna, I didn't even tell you this, but we got Norris J coming to do a little quick interview with us next week. So
All
y'all
right.
be out on the lookout for that. He has a new project coming out,
Yes, sir.
and he wants to talk about. He's doing a live event the weekend after next. So we're going to talk to him right before that. So be on the lookout for that. And as always, thank you for listening.
Welcome to the talk show, where we're kicking it and having fun.